Guys, Ged Walters here. Welcome to West Hill Golf Club here in Surrey. Obviously you're watching this on the Golf Monthly YouTube channel, so please click subscribe if you don't already subscribe. There's loads of great content on there, both here on the YouTube channel and online as well. And today what we're going to do is go through some key launch monitor data. So data which is covered from TrackMan, GC2, Flight Scope. Guys, I want you to post your comments in the box below. Any questions that you have regarding any of the segments of this video, any issues that you might have with any of the parameters or information that you want to know more about, please post your comments in the box below. Love to hear from you guys, and I will get back to as many of you guys as possible, as quickly as possible. So stay tuned, maybe take some notes, and we can help you hitting the ball with better angle attacks, more ball speed, better launch conditions, better ground impacts, and hopefully straighter with more distance. We're going to start with one of the most important, which is club head speed. Now, your club head speed, most of you guys will measure when using the driver. Not too many will test it when you use your irons. So I've got driver in hand here, and for the majority of people, your club head speed, it's actually measured at the maximum point of compression face to ball, so the strike point. So if I've got my ball teed up here, your club head speed isn't measured as the club is wafting down the bottom. It's actually measured at this point here, maximum point of compression on the face. Now, the majority of amateur golfers, club head speed is somewhere in the regions of an average of about 95 miles an hour. Now, some of you guys will dip below that and some guys will pop above it. You look at the tour guys, will average somewhere in the region of about 112, 114 miles per hour. So that's the reason why they hit the ball so far. Tour average is somewhere in the regions of about 290 yards. Distance wise, with the small percentage you hit it maybe 320 and above. Most amateur golfers think they carry the ball further than they actually do, so it's definitely something as we go through this series that you'll be able to look out for and find out. One of my key pieces of advice for you when it comes to your club head speed is make sure that you keep the swing smooth. The smoother you keep the tempo, the more speed the club can carry and deliver as you come into impact. Now, ball speed is measurement of the golf ball as it comes off the club face. So as your ball comes off the club face, as it first separates, that's when it gets measured. It's the single biggest factor in distance. So if you get your ball speed high, you're going to hit the golf ball further. The chances of you getting your ball speed high comes from a more centered contact. So the key is your strike. Strike it out the middle, you'll increase your ball speed. So moving on from ball speed, the next thing I want to talk about is smash factor. So smash factor is the ratio between the ball speed and the club head speed. So you take your ball speed and you divide it by your club speed, and that gives you that ratio. Ideally, you want it to be somewhere in the regions of 1.5, and if you can get it a little bit above, get it a little bit above. That shows that you've transferred the maximum amount of energy from your golf club into the golf ball, and that is going to give you, assuming that you have a really centered strike, that's going to give you the maximum potential to hit the driver as far as possible. Now that goes across the board, so the smash factor on your iron shots is also vital to being able to translate energy from your irons into your ball, into your shot, so you can maximize distance for each club in the bag. Next, we want to talk about the angle of attack. This is the up and down movement of the golf club. So it's movement down and up as it approaches into the impact area. So when we're looking at impact with the driver, we're looking for the angle of attack to be on the upward portion, so the club to have reached the bottom of the swing arc, bottom of your circle, and then we want to get it more on the up. Now, there are some players who do hit the ball a little bit down or at the flat spot with their driver. And you would probably say, for the majority of you guys out there, you really want to try and hit it on the up. Hitting it on the up will make you launch the ball better and get you the best out of it. If you're swinging at slower swing speeds, hitting it with a little bit more upward is also going to help you. So it's the guys who are generally swinging it really fast and are really skilled, they'll get away with hitting driver at a little bit more on the downward end. Talking of the downward end is then when we come to our irons. So if I move the ball off the tee there, with our irons, we're then looking to get that movement coming down so that we've got our crisp ball and then turf impact. So we want to make sure that it's down with the irons and upwards with the woods rather than the flip side, because the down with the wood will make it very difficult for you to control the face and the path going through impact, and the upward with the irons will get you hitting those ground first heavy shots or thinning and topping the golf ball. So let's move on now to launch angle. Launch angle is one of the 3 keys to maximizing the distance that you're going to hit the golf ball. So the launch angle is the angle of the upward movement of the golf club, giving you your vertical launch of the golf ball at maximum compression. So downward with an iron is going to get the loft on the face to push the vertical launch, but with the driver we want to be able to get that vertical launch with a relatively flat face to be, for the majority of you guys, if you aimed for somewhere between 12 and 14 degrees of launch angle, then you're going to be hitting the ball on a pretty good trajectory relative to your strike, and that combined with that upward angle of attack that we've spoken about is going to help you maximize the distance. That's one of your 3 keys then going along with your ball speed. So now I want to get into a little bit more of sort of the nitty-gritty of what's going to get the ball moving in a particular direction and also then starting to control the curve. Now, you look at some of the launch monitors and some of the data you can get now from your flight scopes and GC quads and TrackMans is face, path and face to path details. So let's break them down. Let's look at what the sort of club face alignment is first. So if you look at this stick that we've got on the ground here, the measurement of this is the position that the club face is in at the point of maximum compression. So where your club face looks. Where the club face looks is responsible for where the golf ball is going to start. So if you're looking with a driver, approximately we could say 85% responsible for the start direction, because the ball will always start closer to the direction of the face than it will to the direction of the club's move. So if you hit a shot and it starts to the right, your face is pointing to the right. If you hit a shot and starts to the left, your face is pointed to the left. So you can use that information to tell yourself how to adjust what's just happened. That golf ball starts to the right, next swing, get the face to look more to the left, and vice versa. Then when it comes to the path is the direction that the club is swinging in. And then finally, the relationship between the two. The importance of this relationship determines how much curve you're going to put on your golf ball. Now, if we look at the golf ball itself only ever spins one way, and that is backwards. It never spins sideways. But what happens is when we hit the golf ball, dependent on the position of the club face relative to the path as we go through and hit, it will tilt the axis of the golf ball almost like the wings of an airplane. So if you think about the wings of an airplane on the horizon, when the ball slices or fades, the axis tilts. So you can see the right wingtip would go down and the ball would move this way. If you were hitting hooks or draws, it's going to do this. Now, the greater the separation, so the greater the value of the face to path number, the greater the amount that spin axis is going to tilt, the more the ball will curve. So we would really want to see a face and path which was very close together. So the separation isn't very big. Soon as you start to see it going this way and this way, you're going to see your golf ball curve quite a bit. We've then got to be able to look at those two relations when it comes to why we slice it, why we draw it, why we fade it, and why we hook it. Now, when we look at the draw, so for a right-handed golfer, the draw would want to see the path of the club traveling a little bit to the right of the target line. And then it would want the face of the club a little bit left of that path. But notice that the ball to target line is there. So the club path is to the right. Say if we wanted to put a value to it, 10 degrees to the right is here. 5 degrees to the right of the target line will be the face. So the face is then closed to the club's movement, which is then going to make the spin axis go to start the ball to the right with the face, but then curve the ball back towards your target. Again, the greater they go, draw turns into hook. Now, if we looked at that from the other way round, if we wanted to fade the ball, we've got our 10 degrees to the left club path with our 5 degrees to the left club face. So the club face, although it's left of your target, is open to the direction of the golf club. So it's going to start the ball off to the left and curve it back. And again, if we get too great a separation between those two, then that ball's just going to keep going to the right, and that's where you're going to get your slice. Now, if you've got your face off to the right of target, then that ball starts right and goes right, or vice versa. If your path is to the right and your face is left of target, it's left going left. An important factor that sometimes gets overlooked is the dynamic loft of the golf club. This is the loft that you present at impact. It's not the loft that's on the golf club. So on your driver, it might say 10.5 degrees. It doesn't mean that number on my 5-iron here is 27 degrees. So it's not that number either. And there's a lot of factors that can influence it, from angle of attack, whether or not you shift your pressure to the target correctly, whether the club face is open or closed, have you got the shaft leaning forwards or backwards. So if I was to get in a setup position here, as I'm coming through down to impact, if my shaft is leaning forward, I'm not going to present 27 degrees of loft, it's going to be lower. And if it's a little lower, that's going to help me sort of squeeze the ball out, a little bit of ball turf, and it's going to help me maximize and control flight and distance relative to me having a nice centered strike. For a lot of guys who struggle with hitting the ball too high, and also on the flip side of that may not take a divot, you guys will be presenting your loft this way. So I look at that, and there's definitely not 27 degrees of loft on that club either. There potentially could be closer to 37 degrees of loft. So when you look and say, my 5-iron only goes as far as my 7-iron or my 8-iron, if you dynamically present the loft that way, then literally you're just hitting it with static loft of that 7 or 8-iron, which is why you struggle to get that distance and you launch the ball really high. So paying attention to the dynamic loft at impact is important, again, to maximizing your trajectory and distance. One of the really neat things I like about TrackMan is it measures low point. Now, sometimes you might hear a lot about low point and not really understand what it is. So normally I'd use a hula hoop to explain it. I haven't got one with me at the minute, so I'm going to improvise. I'm going to use this basket, okay? So the low point is the lowest point of the circle. Now, what happens when you hit your shots, if you're hitting shots on TrackMan, is it would measure low point, and it measures it in inches, either before, using a B, so before impact or after impact. Now, really what we want to do is we want to make sure that we've got an A, an after impact in our measurement. So if we could get, say, an average of 2 inches after impact, that would mean that your angle of attack was nicely on the down and that you are ball and then turf impact going through. So I've got a little visual as well on the ground here just to explain what really happens. So as we've got the downswing coming through, the club's travelling down the circle, and then as it's coming in, it meets the golf ball travelling down the circle. So as it hits the golf ball, it then gets here, these two tees represent entry into the ground. So the interaction between the golf club and the ground is at this point. Notice I have to move the golf ball out of the way to get to that point. From there, we have these two tees in the middle. They are the lowest point of the circle. That's the deepest point of our divot. And these two tees then represent the exit of the golf club out of the ground. So if you're hitting tops, fats, thins, that's because your low point would have a B rather than an A. So your inches would be before the golf ball. That would mean your low point is over here. So what we want to think about is, as you were hitting some shots, think about the club moving in the circle and try and move the circle forward so that your low point, your flat spot, would be more down here. But what we want with the driver is totally different. That needs to be before, because we want to hit it on the up. Remember, we want to launch it up in the air and we want the angle of attack to be upward and positive. So if it was to be set up this way with a driver, which probably if you went out and hit your driver on TrackMan, you might find that you do at the minute if you struggle with your driver. What we really want to do is then shift that to the other end of the spectrum, so that the driver itself, because of the ball's position closer to the lead foot and the bottom of the circle being closer to where your sternum is, as you move down and through, the club is traveling down, finding the flat spot, and then moving up through to impact. So you would probably find there that your low point would be maybe 3 inches, depending on your ball position and the width of stance, maybe 4 inches before where your impact point would be. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. Comment again in the box below on any of those parameters. Lots of information there. You might want to keep going back and forth, or if you've been taking notes, you can revert to your notes when you're out and you're practicing. When you go and you test or you use any equipment on a launch monitor, you have a lesson on a launch monitor, always ask the question why. Ask the question why, what you're going to do, or what loft or what shaft or what club or what change effect it's going to have on the golf ball, effect it's going to have on the key parameters which we've covered, which will help you guys hit the ball straighter, more at the middle of the club face, further, with more control. They're the keys. We want you to play better golf, so always ask those questions and make sure that you get the answers which are suitable for you as an individual. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up if you're liking the content, share it around as well. Don't forget as well, Golf Monthly's website, loads of great information on there as well, loads more great free content, news, reviews, check it all out.